Donald Trump has created quite a stir by repeatedly saying he might not accept the results of the election, but can he do that?
KPIX 5 political reporter Melissa Caen here to answer that question. Melissa.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There was so much in that debate. There was so much to unpack from that debate. I think some people were surprised that he said he might not accept the results. But then sort of once they got past the initial shock, the question is that an option? Even James Corden from The Late Late Show weighed in.
The big story of the night was that Trump said that he might not accept the results of the election. And honestly, I didn't know that you could do that. I didn't know that you could just not accept things.
Now, of course, Trump, in his heart, does not have to accept the results. But as a practical matter, let's talk about the ways to actually contest election results. Now, the first thing you should know is that there's no one way to object to the national results. Elections are done state by state, so objections have to be done state by state. So right off the bat, it is complicated.
Complicated sounds like a lengthy process, too. So we know that Trump is saying the election may be rigged. Can he ask for a recount or a revote?
Well, let's start with the revote. There's almost no chance that he is going to get a revote. By the way, a revote is like a do-over, a second election day. Anyway, and again, there's almost no chance that any court would order that. Now, the U.S. Constitution says that sets the date when we elect our presidents. And courts have consistently said that is the date. It is in the Constitution. It is the only date, and we are not going to order another one. So no matter what happens on Election Day, those ballots are the ones we're working with. There will not be a do-over election. Now, Trump can ask for a recount. Now, a judge can order a recount. Also, if a vote is really, really close, some states will pay for a recount with taxpayer money. Other than that, the person who wants a recount generally has to pay for it. That's what we do here in California. Anyone who wants a recount has to pay, and they have to pay in advance, and it is not cheap. A California statewide recount would cost several $1 million. So, not a cheap alternative. Also, after paying all that money, the recount might not even matter. That's because there are strict deadlines in a presidential election. This year, any recount would have to be finished by December 13th. If it is not, then the results can be ignored. So, recounts can be expensive, and they have to be done really fast. So this is not an easy fix.
All right, let's turn back the clock a little bit. Has a recount ever changed the outcome of a state's presidential vote?
I did actually find one example of this, just one. In the 1960 presidential race between Richard Nixon and JFK, the state of Hawaii counted the votes. They certified them, and they said, we are for Nixon. Now, Democrats demanded a recount, and it was a really messy situation. But at the end of the day, Kennedy ended up being certified the winner. Now, this didn't change the outcome of the election. Nixon would have lost anyway. But it does show that while recounts are difficult, they can be a powerful tool when a person does not want to accept the outcome of an election.
All right. We can only wait and see what happens.
We're all in suspense.
Yes, we are. Okay,
Almost
Melissa,
there.
thanks so much.
Thank you.